So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have a great presentation that we're going to get started with here. So we have student Beyda from the Energy Resource Center, and she is the development director. And she's actually filling in. We had another speaker tonight, but he had a family emergency, so she's been kind enough to fill in and do the presentation for us. So, Susan, I'm just going to let you take it away.
Okay, well, I need to, let me just get my screen up here. Yay. Okay, so I need to just tell everybody right off the bat that I am no stand-in for Charlie Sanchez. Normally, Charlie and I do these presentations together because we have different areas and different strengths and everything. And Charlie does have a serious family emergency and sends his regrets. So I will do the best I can. And then I'll take notes, and anything that comes up that I can't address, then we'll be sure to circle back to you guys with the information. I want to thank you for the information, bringing up the GEOS community. I know there's a project in Stapleton also that's, looking into this sort of complete off the grid kind of energy efficiency. And those are things that Charlie can speak to because he's been in the business, construction business for over 25 years, as well as working in terms of weatherization. So I will collect all these things and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit more. So what I'm hoping is that I can go through the presentation and you all, I'll stop along the way and you can put questions in the chat, or you can ask me, we can have some dialogue. I will stop and say, does this make sense? Does anyone have any questions so far? And if anybody does, then we can have a little chat and then we'll keep going. So the presentation itself maybe is like 25 minutes, but if we add the questions in as we go along, that would be great. The title of this presentation is Eradicating Energy Poverty in Colorado. And I really do want to speak to what exactly that means. So before I jump into that, let me just tell you a little bit about Energy Resource Center, the organization that we represent. Okay, so Eradicating Energy Poverty in Colorado. So Energy Resource Center, 501c3, started in Colorado Springs with the idea of educating people about solar in 1979. In the 1990s is when we first received our first contracts to do energy efficiency services. And that was primarily to help low-income people in no heat emergencies. So Energy Resource Center is one of 5 weatherization agencies in the state of Colorado. And in a little bit, I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means. But all of these federal contract monies that we get into Colorado are managed by the Colorado Energy Office and something called the Weatherization Assistance Program, which we lovingly refer to as WAP. And it is a federal program, so if you want any more information about WAP, you can Google it, and it's tons of information. Here, we serve 27 Colorado counties, including Broomfield. Our current CEO has been at the helm for 13 years, and he expanded from 5 counties to 27. So we have had tremendous growth just in the last 2 years since I've been part of ERC. Our budget has gone from $12 to $14 million. So yeah, weatherization, we'll talk about that. We focus on measures to eradicate energy waste. And we do that with low-income populations. In order to qualify for our services, you have to be a household that is at 60% of the state median income or 200% of the federal poverty level. And the impact of the work that we do, we hit on so many things. Charlie's very excited about the equity, diversity, inclusion aspect of our work, which is, more and more people are talking about DEI as we go forward. I get excited, having been a development person in a whole plethora of organizations. Energy Resource Center hits on seniors, community safety, and the environment with the energy efficiency work, health and human services. I could go on and on. So it's so many things that we do. So I'm very, very proud to represent this organization. So back to what energy efficiency actually, energy poverty actually means. According to the American Council for Energy Efficient Economy, ACEEE, which is an extremely reputable group. If you guys have particular interests, I would highly recommend that you follow them, and their newsletters are very informative. But energy poverty is a high energy burden, and what that means is that the household spends more than 6% of their income on energy, and an extreme burden is more than 10%. So energy resource center clients are always 20% or above. We have seen people that spend 50% of a fixed income. You know, if you imagine you're a senior with a very small budget, you could get there pretty quickly if you have serious problems in your home. So the scope of the problem in Colorado is that we know that there are 500,000 households that could qualify right off the bat for our services in Colorado. Now, in Broomfield, you all have the good fortune of being a wealthier community. So when we look at numbers like 500,000 households, we have a pretty lofty goal of eradicating energy poverty. If we look at the number of people in Broomfield County, we could all really do that there. You know, we can all get together and make sure that your residents and the people that qualify are taken care of. And that's part of my reason for being here today, is to make sure that everybody understands that we're looking for clients and want to keep our waiting list full and all of that. So, yeah, what else is on here? Yeah. So weatherization or energy efficiency upgrades are completely tied to affordable housing, because most of the time the people, you know, it's the worst housing stock in the community. It's old, it has problems, and we can go in there and do energy efficiency upgrades that make a big difference. So we've also seen, as a result of COVID, because there's been so many more people that were out of work and so much more pressure on the amount of money that they have as disposable income, that there's been just even more people that are eligible in need of our services. Yeah. So, like I said before, ERC sees 25 to 50%. It says 17 or more % of income going to energy work. There are a huge number of homes in the US today that were built before the 70s. So the older the home, the more likely it is that they have inadequate insulation and old appliances. We do serve without reservation, and always have, anyone who is eligible and qualifies for our services. So I really want to make that clear, because I think that you know, ERC has been putting into action a lot of diversity things through our work all along. And now we're looking for more ways to really be inclusive of the communities that we serve and represent the communities in our decision-making. So of the people that we serve, about 60% are clients. This has been recognized by the Next 50 initiative. I don't know if you're aware of them, but they are a huge new foundation that's been tasked to look at how people age in Colorado. So they've given us a number of extremely large, significant grants to increase our capacity to serve seniors. And that in all of our territories across the 27 counties we serve, that is our biggest population. I should probably have mentioned that if you imagine the map of Colorado and you start down at the San Luis Valley in Alamosa, we have a regional office there. Then you move up to Colorado Springs, that's where our headquarters office is. Then you move up to sort of Denver, Boulder, that's where our Denver office is. And then Larimer, Weld, and all the northeastern counties are served by our office in Loveland. And we are about ready to open a new satellite office soon, hopefully in Fort Morgan or Sterling. So that gives you an idea. We are the biggest weatherization organization in the country, as far as we know. Anyway, back to the scope of the problem. We talked about affordable housing being in bad condition. ERC touches 2,000 homes a year, which I think is a lot. And we know that we save people an average 25% of their annual utility bill. And over 20 years, which is what we say our upgrades last, that can be $10,000. Is there any questions about what I've covered so far? Just what energy poverty is and the scope of the problem and why we're doing this.
This is Linda. Do you work on mobile homes or do you only work on stick built?
You can be an owner or a renter in a single family home, multifamily home, or manufactured housing mobile home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So again, I don't really know how much you guys know about how things work. So please forgive me if I'm speaking down to anybody. That's not the case. But you know, we really try to step back when we talk in broad brush terms about weatherization, because it's not just what's happening at ERC or what's happening in Colorado, but across our entire country, what's happening on the government level, federal legislation and everything really impacts what we do. So, for example, when Joe Biden was running for president and he was, you know, giving his talks and speeches, he was very, very focused on climate change. And in some of his talks, he talked about increasing funds for weatherization. And we were all like, oh my God, you know, like no one even knows what that is. And true enough, we're looking at much more money coming. So there's sort of these larger forces that impact what we do as well. Here in Colorado, we have a very specific influence on what we do. The Colorado Public Utilities Commission, its whole reason for being is to help with ensuring that Coloradans get safe and affordable and reasonably priced services. And it's a regulatory agency. So we the utilities are regulated and evaluated and audited by the PUC. So right now, for what we do with energy efficiency and weatherization, there's been a lot of legislation here in Colorado, and there's been a lot of extra programming and requests of utilities, particularly Xcel, that are kind of working in our favor. So it's always a little bit controversial, I think, but we have lots and lots of partnerships that make our business viable and successful. So the first thing I need to talk about is the Colorado Energy Office. So as you see here, there's all these different players and where the money actually comes from. So it comes from the federal level into the state of Colorado, into the Colorado Energy Office. And then the Colorado Energy Office determines where the money is going to be spent by county in Colorado. So we also have partnerships with state organizations, but we also have partnerships with counties and communities, towns. We obviously have good relationship with Xcel and some of the other utilities that are in our areas. Colorado Springs Utility every year is increasing the amount of money they give us to work on low income energy efficiency upgrades. And then there are all kinds of other partners that have been increasing more and more, not only on the funding level, but we are the largest subcontractor of Energy Outreach Colorado. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Energy Outreach Colorado, and everybody has energy in their name, so it gets very confusing, believe me, but Energy Outreach Colorado is an umbrella organization that was set up to try to help get people in need the different kinds of programs that would help them with their utility bills. So Energy Outreach Colorado also has applications for clients for weatherization. They give utility cash payments to people, but they don't have any tools or trucks. So while we overlap in terms of trying to get our clients together, we are Energy Outreach Colorado's biggest subcontractor. So we're the tools and trucks for Energy Outreach Colorado. So we have a super relationship with them in terms of marketing and construction and all of the things that we do together with them. So if you see these names, it's very, for the most part, very symbiotic relationships, very collegial, very collaborative. Okay, so there are different ways for an end user person or household to get assistance. So I've talked about a little bit about some of the people involved. Just told you about Energy Outreach Colorado. They can call them, they can call us, they can call the utility. But the number one thing that we really want everybody to do is start with LEAP. And LEAP is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. And so once somebody gets an application with LEAP, then they're in the system for having reduced utility bills. Excel also has that kind of program. And you know, we want to make sure that people immediately don't have to put out cash for their energy bills. So let me just stop there really quickly. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? The different partners that we have, and you know how we can get people in touch with resources.
If a client went through the utility company for assistance, would they send them to LEAP, or do they work with LEAP, or is there a connection there?
So that's a really good question, and we get that question all the time too. You would hope, and our people, you know, when someone calls our office too, we try, that's, you know, our first question is, are you on LEAP? And we would hope that everybody would direct people to LEAP. It's not always that straightforward. The reason that Energy Outreach Colorado and Energy Resource Center want to know if people are on LEAP is because you're automatically qualified for weatherization programs if you already receive LEAP. So that's makes, you know, the bureaucracy involved a lot less complicated. So you know, we have a lot of money in the state of Colorado for LEAP, and so I would hope that everybody would refer people there. It's also a community outreach challenge. As I talk to nonprofit partners that we have, you know, we are also asking people, encouraging them to get people onto LEAP. They, you know, that's the first step. We're the next step, and people generally do know about LEAP as you know, United Way or something, but they really don't necessarily realize that weatherization could be the next step, a more permanent fix.
I also have a question, if you would, please.
Sure.
I noticed that United Power and REA was not one of your sponsors. Is that correct? Or one of your partners?
So we do not have a partnership with United Power at the moment. And I know some people there, and that's just been a bandwidth issue for me, having not gotten that far. So I probably wouldn't mind somebody introducing me to some powerful people at United Power. And I'm sure they're doing, you know, Excel has its own weatherization thing, and sometimes people have to pay a little bit. So if I honestly don't know what United Power is doing right now, but I'd love to talk to somebody there. And what was the other group you mentioned?
REA, Rural Electric Association.
I think we do have some relationship with them, but it's not analogous to the kind of work that we do with, say, Colorado Springs Utilities. So there's always, you know, it's very hard to navigate in some of these utilities to get to the right people. So any help you might want to offer, let me know. So, okay. Moving along. So as I mentioned, the money comes into the state of Colorado, and there are actually 5 weatherization providers. Every county is allowed to decide how they want to provide weatherization services. So ERC, we have, as I mentioned, if you look down in the San Luis Valley, we have the blue, we have the sort of pink that goes through Fremont, Teller, El Paso, we have Douglas, all the only metro area counties that we don't have are Adams and Arapahoe, and they work together, and they are not particularly aggressive about weatherization in those counties. But then we have all the northeastern counties, and as I said, Larimer and Weld. Okay, so what makes Energy Resource Center, what's our role? What makes us different? Well, we do provide the weatherization, as I mentioned, the actual services themselves, and we do actually do some emergency services on our own, and we also do Energy Resource Centers, Energy Outreach Colorado's SIP program, which is their emergency services. So if people are in no heat or hot water crises, particularly in the winter, they call us and we do everything we can to get out there. But what makes us a little bit different is that, as far as we know, we're the only weatherization organization that is taking this holistic approach to our client needs. So we provide wraparound services. So, you know, for example, to your point about mobile homes, if our crews get to a mobile home and there's no steps that would support the weight of a human being to get into the mobile home, we're going to fix them. If we go to a mobile home and the attic, to any home, and the attic has holes in it, insulation is not going to do much, right? So we are trying, our end goal is to not just do these state and federal money programs, which are very prescribed. I mean, you can't do one single thing outside of the things that they provide, but we want to leave people in safe, comfortable, healthy, energy efficient homes. So I joined ERC about 2 years ago. It's the first time they ever got engaged in any fundraising. And we've been having this overwhelming response, because not only do people not qualify for any of the programs we just talked about, if they have issues, pre-existing health and safety issues in their homes, they're low-income people. They probably can't afford to fix them, and they would have, right? So by taking this holistic approach, we can make sure that all the things that would disqualify them from federal and state programs are taken care of. So then we can leverage that money and come in and do all of that work. So they really do end up with much more. Now, we're not building an addition on somebody's house or anything, but you know, you have a window that's completely broken. We have to put in a storm window to cover it, right? So that's the kind of thing, leaving people in a safe, healthy, energy efficient home. So we've been talking about WAP, weatherization programs. You can read this definition. You know, it's very, I just got the email today that I think there's $7.3 billion now that's just been released into the WAP program for this year. So it's very successful. It's very well documented. If you want to see like all of the things that result, as you know, from WAP, they have facts and figures and outcomes, and it's, you know, a very solid long-term program that's not going anywhere. So what does that actually mean? Like, what do we actually do? Well, the first thing that happens is when we get to clients approach us or are referred to us, or we go out and find them, clients, and we get them to fill out an application, and then the application is approved. You have to be qualified in order, not only on the basis of your income, but your home has to not have been weatherized since 1994. So sometimes people get very upset because they didn't live in the property, or they don't remember. But once a house has been weatherized prior to, or since 1994, then they're off the list, which is unfortunate. So there is some movement on the federal level to change that. But get the application, we send an energy auditor out there. They go around the entire property. They take all the measurements. They find out where the energy efficiencies are. They look at the appliances, everything that's necessary to make a plan for this house. And they do all of the attic wall crawl space insulation. We install high energy efficiency furnaces. Sometimes we are looking at the heat pump idea. It really is specific to each property. And now we're moving more and more into the solar arena, because it's actually much more efficient for the WAP program. If we can do more solar, then we can serve more people through the WAP program because it costs less. So we do install water heaters. Again, all of these equipment appliances are energy efficient. Sometimes refrigerators get replaced. We do change out all the lighting to make sure everything's LED. We even give people high energy efficiency water kettles. I mean, it's a whole package. We also provide carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. And then we do all of this, all the air leakage measures. And again, I apologize. Charlie can go through all the construction details about what all these things mean. And I can't really do that, but here's a nice graphic that gives you an idea of all the things we do. Weather stripping, water saving measures. We put in shower heads for people, sealing up everything. And then we have a full evaluation, audit, and education training for people at the end of the service. So let me ask if anyone has questions on that, and I'll do my best to answer them.
I have another question for you, please.
Yep.
Being it's a federal program, the WAP,
Yep.
are there similar organizations to yours throughout the country?
Yep. Every state gets weatherization money and then they manage it. In Colorado, the Colorado Energy Office has determined that that decision is left to the county. So out of 64 counties in Colorado, Energy Resource Center has 27. There's a weatherization group that looks after Grand Junction and the Western Slope. There's one that looks after the Four Corners area, one that looks after the southeast corner of Colorado, and then the Adams and Arapahoe County group.
Thank you.
So again, when Charlie gives this presentation, he really does speak to all of the emerging technology and how we're training our staffs and moving into that, and heat pumps and beneficial electrification and all of those things. And if anyone has any more specific questions, I can totally get answers for you for that. So let me know. What I really love talking about, and I think I've touched on it already, is that the impact of our work is life-changing for people. 25% savings on an annual utility bill might only amount to $300 or $400, but to somebody who has, really nothing, that's a lot of money. And that's the difference between food and medicine or paying your electric bill, right? The other benefit of getting these semi-permanent weatherization things in place is that the load on the federal program of LEAP and other subsidies is reduced. So even for people that get weatherization, they still can continue getting LEAP, they just get less because their utility bill goes down. So that's a win-win situation, I think, for everybody. It does promote economic stabilization because you have the ability for people to stay in their homes longer, and preserves neighborhoods and affordable housing. We've seen, particularly in the San Luis Valley, that if we weatherize homes, they can stand up to extreme weather events. I mean, those people have 70-degree temperature fluctuations and massive snowstorms and windstorms and things. So we know that weatherization impacts people during weather. So yeah, affordable housing, talked about community safety and crisis prevention. When people are in crisis when it comes to heating, they do things like bring their grills inside. And we have, they know that the statistics of fires and explosions and propane incidents and all of that, carbon monoxide poisoning, are reduced when people don't have to rely on other ways to heat their house. It touched on the racial equity idea, and there are plenty of studies that indicate because people of color tend to be low income and live in the most difficult housing areas, they are affected disproportionately. So weatherization is really helping to lift up community of color and sometimes whole neighborhoods. So that's what that refers to. And then there are studies that have been done that show particularly when it comes to seniors, that if you weatherize a home, you're mitigating for asthma, for mold. We don't do asbestos remediation, but there are other organizations and agencies that do, and it has come up in WAP conversation. But people actually become healthier, and kids sleep better, and there's less stress in the home, and school improves when people have heat and hot water. So those are these other sort of non-energy things, but kind of wrapping around all the work that we do is that greenhouse gas emissions are dramatically reduced. So we're taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. We've got the Colorado Energy Office measures all of these things. We've got the therms and the kilowatt numbers and all of that. But that's why there's so much more attention now on weatherization as far as climate change and the greenhouse effect goes. So are there any questions on this list?
I had one. Do you guys also test for radon?
We do not. There is an entire organization that does. So nobody should be not tested for radon for free. And if you need that information, I can probably send it to you.
And are there organizations that can help low-income families mitigate for radon if they have it?
Yeah, and that also goes through the state agency.
Okay.
So radon is handled, it is handled and by someone else.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, when I first started, I thought that was super cool because we're already there and we could do that. And they were like, yeah, no, I'll take it care of by somebody else. Thank you for asking. Okay. So again, as we move more and more, and now you guys should be educating me, but clearly getting away from fossil fuel power plants and carbon intensive energy, through beneficial electrification, impacts on the amount of money they're spending on their energy. It improves the well-being, particularly of low-income families. And we're moving more and more to seeing community, residential, and commercial solar. So even though ERC does not have the remit of participating in solar farms and things like that, particularly in the Valley, we're doing some of that because we have a little bit of bandwidth to do for-profit services. So right now, the waiting list for our qualified WAP and CARES clients is huge, but and we're having staffing problems like everyone else. But in normal times, we actually would take commercial jobs, and we have been involved in building solar fields and doing sort of new, residential developments. We go in and do all the furnaces, for example, and stuff like that. So any money that we make through any commercial endeavors is actually put back into the community to support the Home Repairs Fund, which is all these wraparound services. So again, we think that, it's our CEO likes to talk about the future of eradicating energy poverty, like, a coffee cup, and you're pouring your coffee into your coffee cup and it has a hole at the bottom and it just keeps draining out, because he doesn't, it's a lofty goal and we're going for it, but there really doesn't appear to be an end to the number of people that are going to be in need as long as we have low income housing and things getting older and all the rest of it. So while we aren't optimistic that we can eradicate energy poverty in the state of Colorado, like I said, it could be possible in Broomfield, and it certainly we can make a big dent in it, and it is definitely going to be impacted by what's going on the federal level, the state level. So far, again, the Biden administration is just huge around weatherization in terms of putting more money into it because of the effect it has on climate change. And here in Colorado, we fit very nicely into our plan to to reduce carbon emissions, by 2050. So the governor's office is very favorable to the Colorado Energy Office's approach and work on weatherization, and we expect a lot more money to be coming into the state for our program. So, any questions? That's the end of the presentation. I will have one more quick thing to say, but any questions here? It's perfectly clear. All right, I'm gonna give you one more chance for questions, but let me just jump into this last slide. So the reason this is a slide that's after the presentation is because it doesn't really fit into weatherization. This is a new program that ERC has invented called Carbon Cut Colorado. And what it is a web-based program for fundraising, basically. And what we do is if you go onto Carbon Cut Colorado, you can determine how much the carbon impact is of your own utility bill or your trip or your electricity or your flight, you know, that you took recently or whatever. And we have these little packages that show people, like if you went on a camping trip for 2 days in Vail, you know, this is how much carbon you would use. And it allows people to donate back to ERC, kind of like a carbon offset. We have to be very careful using the term carbon offset because we are really not a carbon offset organization. We are not, you know, having giant corporations save the rainforest. You know, this is a carbon balancing program, but we're pretty excited about it because it engages people and makes them think about, you know, on a very personal level, and the money that is donated through Carbon Cut comes back to ERC into your very own community for the actual activities that we, you know, raise money for it, like I mentioned, to make sure that everybody gets what they need when we leave to be left in a safe, comfortable, energy efficient home. So thank you for this opportunity. We really appreciated it. And again, apologies from Charlie, but does anybody have any final questions?
I just wanted to ask you, you know, from the sustainable Broomfield perspective, I mean, what can we do to support you? Because I think what you're doing is great. So what would you, being we're a group that educates the community and can work with we do have an ear with the local council, you know, what can we do to support your business?
What a great question. Thank you so much. So there are a couple things. So first, Carbon Cut Colorado, that's an option. As far as working with the city and county of Broomfield, there's a lovely woman there named Camille Pollen, and she's doing all kinds of planning for you guys. I'm sure do you have a relationship with her, Brianna? Okay, so she's very well of ERC and what we do. If there's any opportunity to put us onto anything resource list wise, or, you know, we really need clients all the time. And it's not because we can't find them ourselves. Well, there's several aspects to them. One, there's a lot of scammer people out there. So, you know, I don't know about you, but I certainly have had people saying, hey, we can put free solar on your home, you know. So there's that. People, you know, don't necessarily trust. Also too, because you're going into communities, often communities of color, low income communities, they're very skeptical. So trusted partners, anybody that you can think of that would help ERC present weatherization as an option to people, that's huge as well. And so for example, I've got 10,000 flyers going out this week through Food Bank of the Rockies because you know, and I did a ton of work with Denver Public School System because again, when it comes from a trusted partner, not just us trying to call people going, hey, free solar, yeah, I mean, free energy efficiency, you know, it's much more helpful. Anything that we can do to get the ear of lawmakers is always helpful and to help them understand the benefits of what we do. So any relationships that you want to introduce to Charlie and I would be great. And Charlie is an excellent speaker and goes around and talks to groups every chance we get. So, you know, those are the kinds of things really with building our pipeline, because it does take a while sometimes for people to get qualified. And like right now, LEAP opens. I didn't actually know this. You can't sign up for LEAP until it's November. So LEAP opens on November 15th, and then they run through the winter, and then they close down during the summer, and everybody has to reapply again. So it's important for ERC to have a client waiting list so we can weatherize people during the summer too, and not just in the winter. So, that would be helpful. The one other thing, and I know everyone is struggling with the same issues right now, but the whole staffing, the whole idea of, having more people to work with us. And we've, raised our salaries. We have on-the-job training. It's such a great career opportunity for somebody who might want to be we call them green warriors, but to get started into this field and then, learn how to do solar installations, they could have their own company eventually. So, we're really looking to hire some more people.
Have you guys connected with Broomfield Fish, which is our local food bank?
Yes, I love them. And they do give us referrals, and I probably should circle back. But yeah, I actually live at 120th and Federal, so I'm almost in Broomfield.
Yeah, I was like, that would probably be the main organization that really can target the lower income families and stuff in Broomfield. So that organization and Councilman Sharon Tessier, she is really an advocate for equity, access, inclusion, and really helping the underserved populations in the community. So she would be one of our council members to reach out to, and I can probably connect you with her if you'd like.
So helpful. Yeah, I do this, again, dog and pony show with our CEO when we talk to council people all over too, because that, and all of you, I mean, it's the same for all of you. You all have connections all over. You have ideas, you get excited. If you have newsletters or organizations that have newsletters and they want to put Carbon Cut Colorado in it, if there are companies that want to promote it to their employees, that's been a fun thing for us. So yeah, anything you can think of, we would certainly love to partner and just get the word out. So it's no shortage of people that are in need, and we have the money to do it now. So we got to jump on it and then, take all this carbon out of the atmosphere at the same time.
Yeah, Brianna, I can add this as a link on our website. I'll add the Carbon Cut Colorado on there, and they can access it through our site as well.
That would be great. We're in the process of creating an actual toolkit. So there'll be blog stories and social media posts and all that other kind of stuff too. So that would be super. It's a good start. And we would be able to provide more information as we get a little further down the road. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, don't hesitate to call me. I think, Brianna, you're going to share this presentation, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we will we'll create a video of this presentation, and we'll have like a follow-up kind of newsletter that goes out to our members with contact info and stuff, so people can get a hold of you. Do we have any other questions or anything for Susan? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time speaking with us tonight, Susan. We really appreciate it. I think it's great work that you guys are doing. For people that are not in the low income area, are there programs that you suggest that we could go through to weatherize our own homes if we're in the ability to afford those things?
Yeah, so almost every utility does have the option of a for-fee weatherization energy audit. And again, we used to be doing that for private people, and right now we're just a little strapped, but check back with us later. So.
Sounds good. That sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate you making it. And yeah, let your friends know if they're someone who might be able to benefit from this. And if you have any other connections, email us at sustainablebroomfield@gmail.com, and we can, connect other people that way as well. So thanks everyone for coming tonight. And I think we'll wrap it up here. Have a wonderful night, folks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.